Welcome to Stories with Grandma Selene, where African wisdom comes alive through tales of justice, betrayal, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. Today we bring you the story of the woman that sleeps during the day and is awake at night. A chilling tale of friendship shattered, lies that destroy lives, and the power of revenge that refuses to rest. Journey with us from the busy streets of Kano to the quiet villages of northern Nigeria, where a young woman named Simi Samuel faces betrayal at the hands of her closest friend, Martha. Accused of a crime she didn't commit, imprisoned for 2 long years, and shamed before everyone she loved, Simi discovers a path to justice that goes beyond courts and lawyers. Sit back, relax, and let us take you into a world where curses are real, the nights are long, and the truth will not be silenced, until it finally wakes. I used to think the street in Kano raised me. Now I know it only taught me how easily a life can be ruined. Martha and I grew up 3 houses apart, barefoot most days, chasing the same dreams, sharing sachet water under the hot afternoon sun. Our mothers shouted our names at sunset, and we always arrived home together, dust on our feet, laughter on our lips. People called us twins even though we looked nothing alike. Martha was louder, bolder. I was quieter, the listener, but we fit. When she laughed, I laughed. When she cried, I defended her like blood. By the time we were young women, nothing had changed. We attended parties together, wore matching dresses, and shared secrets meant for no one else. If Martha said, "Simi, come," I went. If I hesitated, she pulled me along anyway. That trust would later choke me. On our street, reputation was everything. A single rumor could stain a family for generations. I knew that. Martha knew that too. That's why, looking back, I still don't understand how she did what she did. Or maybe I do, and that's the most frightening part. The party was loud, crowded, and careless, the kind where music erased good judgment. We went with a few male friends, laughing too freely, dancing without worry. I remember Martha whispering, "Relax, Simi, tonight is for fun." And it was, at least it felt like it. We left late, our feet aching, our heads light. Nothing unusual happened. No argument, no fight, no theft, just another night we would later wish we could erase. The next morning, police vehicles parked in front of our houses. Neighbors gathered like flies, doors opened. Whispers spread faster than truth. My mother's hands shook as officers asked my name. Martha stood beside me, silent, her eyes unreadable. At the station, a man I barely remembered from the party pointed at us. He said his money was missing. He said it had to be one of us. I laughed at first, then I saw the officer's face. That was when fear crawled into my chest. Our parents came to the station, angry and confused. My father looked at me and asked the question that still echoes in my dreams. "Simi, did you take that money?" I said no, I said it clearly. I said it with my whole chest. Martha said nothing. The officers pressed harder, hours passed, the room grew smaller, then Martha spoke. "I saw Simi with the money," she said. The words didn't make sense at first. I turned to her, waiting for the laugh, the correction, the joke. It never came. I felt something tear inside me. I wanted to scream, but my voice vanished. The officers wrote it down, the man nodded. The lie became truth. I kept saying I didn't do it. No one listened. Martha was released that evening, I was. That was the moment my life split in two. The cell smelled of sweat and despair, days blurred together. Nights stretched endlessly. I slept on cold floors, listening to women cry for crimes I didn't commit either. Martha never came back. My family visited when they could, their eyes heavy with shame. I could see neighbors already rewriting my story in their minds. After a month, I was charged and sent to prison. 2 years. 2 years for a lie I didn't tell. I learned how to survive, not live. I learned silence. I learned how innocence means nothing without power. And every night I asked myself the same question. How does someone who grew up eating from the same plate destroy you so completely? When I was released for good behavior, no one celebrated. Freedom tasted bitter. I returned home only to find whispers waiting for me. So I ran. I went to my grandmother's village, hopping distance would erase disgrace. She welcomed me with open arms, but even there the past found me. One night she asked me about the theft again. I looked her in the eye and said, "I am innocent." That was when she grew quiet. And that silence would soon change everything. My grandmother didn't argue with me. That was what scared me most. She simply stared into the fire, her face hardening with every second of silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost careful. "If you say you are innocent," she said, "then someone else carries your burden." I nodded. I had carried it long enough to recognize the weight. The village was quiet, but my name wasn't. People watched me like a story that hadn't finished unfolding. At night, I heard my grandmother praying, sometimes for me, sometimes against something I couldn't name. Days later, she told me to follow her. She didn't explain where we were going. The native doctor lived at the edge of the village, where the bush swallowed the path. His eyes felt older than time itself. He didn't ask about the police. He didn't ask about prison. He asked one thing. "Are you innocent?" I answered without hesitation, "Yes." He studied me like truth could bleed out of my skin. Then he leaned forward. "What do you want?" My mouth went dry. I thought of Martha's face the day she walked free. I thought of the cell floor, the lost years. I said the words slowly, deliberately. "I want her to sleep all day and stay awake at night." The room went cold. The native doctor didn't smile. He didn't warn me either. He told my grandmother there would be consequences. Not for me alone, for everyone involved. He said justice doesn't knock, it enters. On our way back, my grandmother asked if I was sure. I didn't answer. I was already past that point. That night I dreamed of endless darkness. When I woke up, the sun felt wrong, like it was watching me. Far away, Martha was living her normal life. For now. Weeks passed, then rumors reached the village. Martha couldn't sleep. People said she wandered at night, eyes red, temper sharp. During the day she collapsed wherever she stood. Some laughed, some whispered. I said nothing. Guilt tried to crawl into my chest, but it couldn't survive there. Prison had burned it out of me. Still, something uneasy followed me. Justice felt too quiet, too patient. The stories grew darker. Martha missed work, fainted in public, screamed at shadows. Doctors found nothing, prayer houses failed, night became her prison. I stood under the village sky and realized something terrifying. The curse was working. And it wasn't finished. I tried to live quietly, but Martha's name followed me like a drumbeat I couldn't silence. Visitors from town brought updates without knowing they were feeding a fire. They said she talked to herself now, that she argued with the dark like it could answer back. They said her mother had started locking doors at night because Martha wandered outside barefoot, calling names no one recognized. Sometimes those names sounded like mine. I told myself not to care. I reminded myself of concrete floors and metal bars. Still, sleep became difficult. I woke up sweating, caught between relief and something dangerously close to fear. Justice, I was learning, doesn't always feel clean. My grandmother watched me closely. She didn't ask questions anymore. Instead, she cooked my favorite meals, hummed old songs, and kept her silence like a shield. One evening she said, "When truth is buried, it pushes through the soil." I didn't reply. That night, I dreamed Martha stood in my prison cell, begging me to swap places. I woke up with my heart racing, the echo of her voice trapped in my ears. I wondered then, not for the first time, if I had opened a door that couldn't be closed. Back in Kano, the whispers turned into headlines of gossip. Martha's condition became public knowledge. Some said she was cursed. Others said guilt was finally collecting its debt. The same neighbors who once believed her lie now avoided her shadow. Her family took her from one solution to another. Doctors, churches, herbalists, nothing worked. Night owned her. Day rejected her. And still she refused to speak the truth. I returned to town once, carefully, quietly. I didn't plan to see Martha. But fate has its own humor. I saw her across the road one night, thin, shaking, eyes wide like she was running even while standing still. Our eyes almost met. Almost. She screamed suddenly and collapsed. People rushed toward her. I walked away, my legs unsteady. I didn't look back. After that night, the curse changed its rhythm. Martha stopped collapsing in public. Instead, she stayed indoors, isolated, afraid, alone with her thoughts and the long, sleepless nights. I realized then that punishment wasn't just exhaustion. It was memory. And memory was sharpening its teeth. I thought staying in the village would protect me. I was wrong. A letter arrived from home, my mother's handwriting uneven with worry. She wrote that people were asking questions again, that my name had resurfaced alongside Martha's illness, that some believed I was the reason her life was unraveling. Fear pressed against my chest, but something else followed it: resolve. I couldn't keep running from a story that had already written me into its center. So I went back to Kano. Kano hadn't changed, I had. The street still smelled of dust and heat, but the faces watching me were sharper now. Some held pity, others suspicion. No one held apology. My family welcomed me quietly. No celebration, no relief, just endurance. That night I lay awake listening to the city breathe, wondering if Martha lay awake too, somewhere nearby, trapped in the same darkness I once knew. Sleep came in fragments. In those broken hours I heard Martha's voice again, not pleading, not angry, but afraid. I told myself it was imagination. Then her mother came to our house. She looked older, smaller. Her eyes held a question she was afraid to ask. She spoke about sickness, about curses, about sleepless nights. She didn't accuse me. That hurt more than accusation ever could. Rumors grew bolder. People began connecting dots they once ignored. Someone mentioned the party again. Someone else remembered my arrest. The story shifted slowly. Martha's name was no longer clean. Still, she said nothing. At night, I stood outside and wondered how long silence could survive under this kind of pressure. I visited the native doctor one last time. He didn't ask why I came. He said truth moves at its own pace. As I left, I felt it then, the story tightening, drawing us closer to a point no one could escape. Martha's nights were growing longer. And dawn was no longer on her side. Martha's body began to fail her in ways sleep deprivation alone couldn't explain. People said her hands shook even when she was sitting still, that she forgot simple things, names, dates, faces she had known all her life. Night turned her restless, day turned her useless. She existed in between, never fully present, never fully gone. Doctors used big words, churches used louder prayers, nothing changed. I watched from a distance, my heart strangely calm. The lie was finally demanding payment. One evening, a neighbor told my aunt something chilling. Martha's house was never quiet anymore. At night, lights stayed on. Chairs scraped the floor, voices rose and fell. Sometimes she laughed, sometimes she cried, sometimes she shouted my name so loudly the street went silent. During the day, she slept like the dead. People stopped visiting. Isolation did what prison couldn't, it cornered her. They said Martha avoided mirrors now. When forced to pass one, she covered her face or smashed it. She told her mother a woman stared back at her at night, eyes open, accusing, unblinking. Her mother cried as she told the story. I felt a twist in my chest then, not pity, not joy. Recognition. Because I knew exactly what that woman in the mirror was asking. At a small gathering, someone finally said it out loud. What if Simi was telling the truth? The room froze. That single question cracked something open. People began revisiting old details, timelines that didn't fit, reactions that felt wrong, Martha's sudden release. Suspicion shifted. Martha felt it. That night she screamed until her voice gave out. The truth was circling her now. Martha stopped eating. Sleep-deprived and hollow-eyed, she began muttering fragments of sentences, confessions that never quite finished. Her family listened in terror, afraid of what might fully form. I stood under the same night sky, she did, and understood something final. The curse didn't force truth. It removed the strength to keep lying. And Martha was almost out of strength. Martha no longer distinguished between night and day. She paced the house endlessly, whispering to walls, flinching at shadows. Her mother slept lightly now, afraid Martha would wander into the street and disappear into the darkness that seemed to own her. People stopped calling her illness a sickness. They called it punishment. I heard these things and felt the weight of inevitability settle in my bones. This was no longer about revenge. It was about a lie that had outlived its usefulness. One night, Martha broke down and told her mother fragments of the party night. Who was there, who drank what, who left early. She circled the truth like a frightened animal. Her mother listened, her face pale, waiting for the sentence that would end everything. It didn't come. Instead, Martha screamed and buggered to be left alone. Even now, fear still owned her more than conscience. Days later, a pastor and a doctor came together. They asked Martha direct questions. They spoke about guilt and sleeplessness, about how lies rot the soul. Martha shook violently. When they asked about the stolen money, she collapsed to the floor, covering her ears, shouting my name like it was a curse itself. I felt it then, an invisible thread pulling us toward each other. The story was ready to speak. Martha was taken to stay with relatives, hoping a change of environment might help. It didn't. New walls couldn't hide old sins. That night she stood outside, staring at the sky until dawn, whispering apologies to no one in particular. By morning her voice was gone. By nightfall so was her strength. The lie had run out of places to hide. I was woken just before dawn by a knock that didn't sound like a knock. It sounded like fear. My mother stood in the doorway, her wrapper loosely tied, her face tight. "They are asking for you," she said. "Martha is calling your name." I didn't ask why, I already knew. When I arrived at the house where Martha was staying, the air felt heavy, like truth had been trapped there too long. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall, eyes sunken, hair uncombed. When she saw me, she started to cry. For the first time in years, she couldn't look away. Martha's voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't think it would go this far," she said. Everyone froze. She spoke in broken sentences, as if each word cost her sleep she no longer had. She talked about the money, how she saw it, how temptation took over, how fear made her point at me instead. "I lied," she said. "Summy never took anything." The room went silent. 2 years of my life finally had a name. Her mother collapsed into a chair. Others stared at the floor ashamed. Martha sobbed openly now, confessing everything. How the lie followed her. How sleep left her the night she sent me to prison. How darkness became her only companion. No one interrupted. Truth didn't need answer. I stood there oddly calm, feeling something heavy lift from my chest. Not joy. Release. Words spread quickly. The same people who once avoided me now whispered apologies. Some cried. Some stayed silent, unable to face what they had helped destroy. Martha was taken away, not violently, not dramatically, but with the weight of consequence finally attached to her name. I watched her leave and realized something important. Confession doesn't erase damage. It only names it. Days later, the native doctor's words returned to me. Truth moves at its own pace. Martha slept through one full night for the first time in years. I slept too. The curse had done what courts and prayers couldn't. It dragged the truth into the light. I walk the street differently now. Some people still stare, some still judge, but my name no longer belongs to shame. Martha's confession didn't give me back my lost years, but it gave me my voice. And if there is one thing I learned, it is this. Some women don't wake at night because they are cursed. They wake because lies refuse to let them rest. Years later, the story remained in whispers and cautionary tales. Children were warned about betrayal and dishonesty. Neighbors remembered Martha's sleepless nights. I had rebuilt my life, carrying the lessons of trust, betrayal, and justice in my heart. Some women sleep through the day and wander the night, not because they are cursed, but because the truth refuses to rest until it has been faced. Remember, betrayal may leave scars and lies may linger, but justice finds its way, even through the unseen, through curses, and through the power of truth. No matter how deep the sleep of deceit, the truth will awaken, and those who are patient and faithful will see justice prevail. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories with Grandma Selene. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a folktale filled with African wisdom, suspense, and the mysterious forces that shape our lives.